If you had to start over again, what would you do differently in WFG?
I would pay attention to what I was told early on. I would have listened to the advice that Ed gave me early on. I knew there was a system. I just didn't think that I needed to do it. It's a lack of coachability. So if I were to go back, I would begin to implement what I should have been implementing from the get-go that I didn't do for 12 months. I would implement it right away.
What's been your greatest joy in WFG?
Well, the trips, the relationships, but more than that is the freedom. I can encourage anyone that is looking at this opportunity that you're going to have ups and downs for sure. But along the way, you're going to build great relationships, make great friends. You're going to have life-changing experiences. You'll go on great trips. You'll have all the goodies that comes along with the opportunity. But the one thing you can't put a price on is freedom. I'll tell you a quick story. Can I tell you a quick story?
Sure.
And for those that are watching this video, I want you to think about this because this is really what it boils down to. An experience like this. I remember it was January. I had my son's now, he's almost 18 years old, but when he was 5 years old, I took him for the weekend to Disney. And we left like 1 o'clock. And actually, we left on Monday. It was his birthday. And we just a quick trip to Disney. And I'll never forget, as it was his first visit there, and he was just enamored by Disney. He was in Disney. And, big brown eyes staring at you. And I'll never forget, we were waiting for the train. There's a train that comes, circles the Disney park. And we were waiting because at the time he loved trains. And we were waiting there, and all of a sudden he hears the boop, boop. Starts looking up. Look, the train's coming, right? All of a sudden he sees the train. Oh, for his life, all he's seen is locomotives on TV.
Right.
Right? There are locomotives in Manhattan.
That's right.
There are locomotives in the Bronx.
Exactly.
Right? So here he goes, all excited. So he grabs my leg. He looks up. He says, "Dad, this is the best day ever." If I had a job, you couldn't put a price on having the freedom to do the things that you can do. I've never missed any of my kids' activities, sports, nothing. In fact, as we're talking, my wife yesterday was booking a trip for us to go on a little sailing type of thing. His class, my 8-year-old, his classroom was having a little sailing trip on a sailboat on Hudson River in Manhattan, and we just signed yesterday to go as parents. It's at 8:15 in the morning on a Wednesday.
Right.
The freedom that allows you to do that is what's worth it.
How about your favorite client story?
I tell you, my favorite client story is one that it's a sad ending for the client because it had to do with a death. But the fact that I was able to provide, before the guy passed away, the right tool, the right insurance, not knowing that he would be killed in the way that he was killed, and not knowing that just the conversation that I had with him a few months earlier when he was about to cancel, I told him, "You shouldn't do this." And sure enough, 4 months later, his wife walks into my office, and the value of what we do sometimes is not known because you can't feel it, you can't sense it by reading a brochure, by watching a video. Even those that are going to watch this right now, it's nice, right? But the value of what we do isn't shown until you experience something like a woman shows up to your office, and the minute that she walks in, something is wrong. As this lady walked in and she had on the glasses, I didn't recognize her right away. And as soon as she took off her glasses, you could tell she was crying. She was very upset. And then she told me who she was, and I realized I hadn't seen her in a while. And she says, and she didn't have to say anything. I just saw the look on her face that says something is not right here. And sure enough, she mentioned her husband died. She wasn't sure if he had kept his policy. I wasn't sure if he had kept his policy because I was encouraging him not to cancel it, but I didn't know. When I called the company and they said, "No, the policy is still active." And she had 3 boys.
Wow.
And she wasn't, she was just a secretary. In the terms he was the breadwinner. Nothing wrong with her being a secretary, but he was the breadwinner.
Sure.
You know, it's those moments that the brochures aren't going to talk about, the videos aren't going to talk about. Is when I picked up the phone and I said to her, the policy's still okay, let's work on the paperwork. The sense of relief that you could see this woman have, that's really what it's all about.
I'll bet. How would you describe WFG's unique culture?
You know, I tell you, it's a bunch of crazy, excited people, and I love it, right? I mean, think about this. Where would a guy like me, I was always a C student in college, right? If I could see over the guy in front of me, I'd pass, right? So, I mean, and if I were to ever go to apply for a big corporate job, pay me $250,000 a year, if I went to any corporate company and do that, they would look at my resume, give me a green suit and the broom and say, start over there. Right? But here I am. You know, multiple six-figure earner. I've got a pretty nice, sizable business, good quality stuff happening here. And, you know, it's one of those things that you pinch yourself that it's really happening. And those are the doubts early on that new people who are considering this opportunity are going to have. The doubt is common. Is this ever going to happen to me? Are the people that are successful in the brochures and the videos, do I ever have a chance to be like them? And, you know, everything about you is going to talk you out of trying. But you got to hold on to that little voice that says, go ahead and give it a shot. And that's all I did. And I'm here.
Do you have a favorite rags to riches story in WFG?
Yeah, my own. I grew up in Spanish
like
Harlem.
a true New Yorker,
Hey, you know,
man.
I grew up in Spanish Harlem. We broke. There's some broke folks. No, I mean, I grew up in Spanish Harlem. I'm a twin. Me and my brother, we're twins. He deals in real estate, which is funny. That's how I got recruited in the industry way back when, from a real estate environment. But you know, we grew up in Spanish Harlem. We're adopted. My father worked 2 jobs. He worked in the cleaners, pressing clothes, in an unair-conditioned dry cleaners in a barrio. And he worked as an elevator operator for one of the hotels in the city. My mother was a housewife. We didn't have any money. We didn't have any money. You know, the fact that they were able to raise 2 twins, put us through Catholic school, and still provide for us everything we needed. I mean, we had no luxury. You know, it was difficult to get a nice pair of sneakers back then. But they did a great job. You know, so, you know, there's tons of stories of rags to riches, but I look at my own life. And, you know, I'm very, very fortunate.
What do you think is the most misunderstood aspect of WFG?
Well, I think that people sometimes come in with the misconception that everything's supposed to work right away. I wrote a book that was specifically addressed to new people, because I've been around new people. I'm a big recruiter in the company, and here in the prior company, so I know how new people think. So I wrote a book where I talked about the flukes. I said, be realistic. Don't buy into the flukes. Now, the fluke meaning the person who joins an opportunity or any business, right? But specifically this one, who has a meteoric rise to the top. I mean, he just does everything right. Everything he touches turns to gold, promotions one day to the next, 6-figure earner, the whole deal, right? I would love to have 1,000 of those guys. But that's not the reality of the business. That's the fluke. And again, not to negate or to downplay that, because again, we all would like to have those flukes. But if a brand new person comes in here and thinks that they're going to have that type of success immediately, they're not living in the world of reality. Now it can happen, and they have to shoot for it and dream for it. But when it doesn't happen, you have to keep things in right perspective. You may not be that fluke. You may have to go through the difficult times of ups and downs. And I think the challenge for most people is that they have unrealistic expectations early on. And unfortunately, that's what drives a lot of folks out of the business.
Okay. Any additional thoughts for people on the fence? Maybe they just saw, you know, a BPM. They're kind of excited, but they're anxious. As you said, you know, you've dealt with a lot of the new people. Mm-hmm. Any advice you'd give for all your years in the business and success you've had for that person that's kind of on the fence?
Yes, great question. I encourage people who are sitting on the fence to try. I mean, what you've got to lose if you try? I try to share with them the worst case scenarios. What's the worst case scenario if you come in here, kick the tires around, test drive it a little bit for the next 30, 60, 90 days? What's the worst case scenario? Well, let's look at the worst case scenarios. Number one, you're going to get a great education on how money works. What's so bad about that? You come in here for 30, 60, 90 days and you don't make a penny, but you walk away with the type of financial education that may have cost you thousands of dollars at a community school. What's so wrong with that? You walk away with licenses and certain credentials that if nothing works out for you here, you can always slap them on a resume. And maybe because you've got licenses and credentials and some kind of financial training on a resume, it might help you get the job over the guy who doesn't have those licenses. So what's wrong with that? 3, you'll get around great people that are going to be there to encourage you and to help you believe in yourself when you may not believe in yourself. What's wrong with that? What's not about those 3 things, what's not to like about that, and what's not to want to give that a try? I tell people no one's going to change your last name. No one's going to take your kids. No one's going to ask you to move, or you don't even have to quit your job. Come in here and hang out with us, and if we're wrong and you're right, then 90 days later you can walk away saying, I'm right, I didn't get anything out of it. What did you lose other than education, a license? You made a bunch of good friends. And at least you walk away with your head up knowing that you gave it a try. So I always encourage people, you give it a try.
Is there any question that I didn't ask you that you wish I would have about WFG or the opportunity?
You know, you pretty much covered the canvas of questions. I just hope that those that are sitting on the fence, or, you know, sometimes people sign a piece of paper, but they're still sitting on a fence. Just because you sign a piece of paper doesn't mean anything. Because the person can decide the very next day or a week later, I'm out. So to that person who's watching this video, and to the person who hasn't yet made a decision, the question I would ask them is, what's going to change for you? If this opportunity works, how is that going to change your life? If it works, even if it works a little, how's it going to change your life? And if it's going to change your life, then let's give that a try and let's work on a little.
Jay, appreciate you coming to the mansion. It's great to see you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching. For Jay, Maymi, I'm Steve Siebold. See you next time.